my regards to all who are listening to me. At the outset, I'd like to draw all of your attentions to share the present scenario where we are and exactly what is going on. Every individual is trying to have a happy, healthy, and a long life. Accordingly, our life expectancy has also increased. And we all are so focused to work on the principles of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Big institutions and universities are updated, not only for the education's clinical or research advancement, but they are supposed or they are interestingly working for the globalizations of Ayurveda or for the global acceptance of Ayurveda itself. And they are trying day and night to take the science, the evidences, the informations related to Ayurveda, extremely devoted for the practice-based Ayurveda science towards the science-based trusted medical systems. So how it can be taken to the next levels. So to be very frank, what is exactly truth behind the science? So if we will search about the truth, that about what the goal we have fixed, that's always the truth is not the real sense. If we will put a question, what is the definition of health? Where the health is available? So about the questions asked to us, mostly we answer that the health is in the hand of doctors or it is available in the hospitals. And we try to search out the message of the health within the immunizations, vaccinations, or the antibiotics. Our all obeisance and obligations towards the hospital setup that diffuses when we fail to serve the medicines of Ayurveda to some cases. Then confusion comes that are we are happy with this stage of Ayurvedic development, or whether the goal has fixed, but direction and the procedures is yet need to rectified or yet need to understand. The violent assault to the Indian civilizations keep us very far from our own language, our own tradition and cultures. So it's needed to be unfolded, it needs to code or decode. We still believe what is Western, that is modern or advanced. We actually don't need the European or Eurocentric understandings or the NRI mentality to the system of Ayurveda. But still it is pressurizes. So stop all such concepts of dreaming, apping the Westerns. We should understand the differentiation in between inward and westwards. If you refer the concept of Isavasya Upanishad, that is about who we are and from where this whole universe has come. It looks like that God has gifted this universe and the nature is the all answer to the questions. And instead, when we leave the nature, so we start to work for the chair, money or power, then the beginning ADR effect or the adverse drug reaction starts from that time only. So the whole untoward effect we created because we go against the natures. So the direction and progress or developments need a lot of change and adjustment, and those all change and adjustment need a consciousness, because without the consciousness or what has written in the Buddhi Tattva, so without that Buddhi Tattva, our whole journey and exercises diffuses. So when we work beyond to the natures, when we work against the natures, then the stress comes, and to adjust the stress, the body secretes many neurohormones, and all the hormones are secreted from the cholesterol cells. And we all know the cholesterol 90% is secreted from the liver itself, 10% are outsourced or come from our food. So the moment when this concept come in the media that cholesterol are not good, then we stop to outsource through the food, and that times our internal system secreted more numbers of cholesterol to just make a patch or manage internally about the all stress effect. So by knowing those concepts, It is essential to think something else, which is not which is just missed in our medical systems. Say in a full moon or no moons, as we observe the water level in ocean has increased. It means the Earth's own gravitational force is something else which is not in the medical, conceptually we use in our treatment protocols. So nature has its own auto-healing systems, and that auto-healing systems is called as quantum consciousness. So keeping our body and mind tuned to the natures is actually the quantum consciousness, or experiencing energy. So that times when we tune to the natures, we never just reduces our energy levels. So we feel energetic all throughout the 24/7 and working out of the power, money and chair, maintaining the enthusiasm. When early morning we get up from the bed, we can ask these questions whether I like to go to the work or I supposed to go to my work. So answer is not actually required now. These questions can be asked to individual persons. So early morning get up, it looks like I is supposed to go to the work. There is a point when we should realize that our enthusiasm level is very less, our quantum consciousness is very less. So quantum consciousness is nothing but intelligence beyond to the comparisons. It is be more interested in the growth in our service than the comfort in our service. Understanding how much power I have to work throughout the 24/7 is quantum consciousness. Understanding entry of energy and in my body, or how it work inside my systems, receive all those vibrations through the atomic bombardings or the let's say colloidal interactions in between the atomic energy. That is called as quantum consciousness, or declining to stay discouraged by anybody else. That is the quantum consciousness. So our quantum consciousness help us to maintain those powers to work or to contribute to, not only for one individuals but for the others. So receiving the feelings of the peoples who are around to us, who lift us to the next versions. So be kind to yourselves, not only to expand the life expectancy, but to bring the quality and value inside the quality of life. That is the quantum consciousness. So care rarely, comfort mostly, and console always is the quantum consciousness. The knowledge advances is not by repeating the same things, but refuting and asking the questions against the existing knowledge is the quantum consciousness. It needs an individual norms. It needs a tapasya. That's why in our textbook has written Lavate Narasayanam. So Lavate itself is Atmanipada. What it indicates that one individual person, when try to do this sadhruta, when continue this rasayana, he only can achieve all the effect of rasayana. This is quantum consciousness. That how one individual person will conscious about his all feelings, all emotions, all the people around them, how the nurtures, how he is reacting to the people, how he is responding to the different levels of perceptions. That is called as quantum consciousness. And throughout the Samhita, if you go one by one another chapters, maximum chapters are devoted for the individual development, not for the all totals. Because except Janapada Dhwangsa, like few chapters are there completely devoted for a mass propagations. Because that was the theme, that if Vyakti acha rahega, the Samaj acha rahega. So today, the whole discussions of the webinar will be on how each individual would be upgraded to receive those good vibrations around us. The questions comes whether this is a science, whether the quantum concepts is a science. So what quantum means? So quantum means a packet of atomic spectra receiving the measurable quantity of wavelength. Say one atom will strike or make a colloidal reaction to another atoms. That way the vibration continues. So we are inside a heap of vibration itself. Now how those vibration coherence work within us? So we should have a close watch on those spectra and control over their effect with our consciousness. That is the essence of quantum consciousness. So here we can see the waves are there, and those waves forms from the colloidal reaction in between the atoms. And when those come to the receivers, the observers, if we consider two receivers, never receive those vibrations in the same way. So it is not the vibration coming to us. It is the way how we receive those vibrations and how we react and respond to those vibrations is the process through which we can develop our quantum consciousness. So that's the essence of today's discussions. And now concept is that how we can prove that quantum consciousness is actively working throughout us. So by taking the single photo emission computer tomography, see this is a slide I kept here. That is how this same variety of spectra is written in our classical test. Just please keep it here. This slide I need. Just before. Okay, just wait. That's the previous slide. So here in the Samprapti, it is written in our class 6 that the spectra comes from the combination of those Dusya Samjogo and that multiplied through the different fold, and that's the multifold established there, this one actually. So it is going through all this process, and there is the manifestation of numbers of symptoms. The same way the spectra also create a lot of vibrations, and we receives in another way of multiplicity in the dynamic systems, and that's why the perception depends upon the individual observers. So similarly, we can go for the single photo emission computer tomography. Just proceed, please another 1-2 slides we can proceed. Yes, so this is one example I have given here, that how the vibration created in the temples, it sustained for 7 seconds. Therefore, after ringing the bell, we take a pradakshina in the temples to receive those things, and that is actually creating a balance in our left and right parts of the brain. When the echoes are actually settles our own emotion, that's why the devotions or we are nothings. There is some superpower is working through us. That realization, that belief is developed within us. That's the reasons why we should visit the temples. And the next slide has given that how we can change the level of our quantum consciousness. So there are some anger, jealousy, fear, hatredness, frustrations, irritations in one side who are coming under the lower vibrations or lower frequency. So being we are the higher conscious organisms in the whole creations, we always should focus our higher vibrations, or how we can tune with the higher vibration like love, joy, appreciation, excitement, and enthusiasm. So make the world of lovers. So you should be around many such good people who encourage, who lift you with all such high vibration, high frequency messages, or high frequency encouragement within us. And next slide, try to give some examples of the SPECT scan. Here we can see the normal brain, and it is versus to the persons who are habituated to the drug abuse. We can see how that is the good conduction systems cannot be maintained there. And coming to the next slide, the same way I try to show how it takes place in the Alzheimer's disease when the persons fail in the cognitive perceptions. And if we think that is it the way to measure the quantum consciousness, then we are wrong. Why? The very next slide we can proceed. The next one, please. So here, the 2 patients of depressions. Here we can see both the patient and the patient of depressions. And both the cases, you can see the findings, the investigation report is not perfect or symmetrical. That's because it's a dynamic system. That's because emotion of one person is different from another person's, and that's because the quantum level or conscious level of one person is different from another person, even though clinically both are depressive patients. So that is the message I like to share here. It not depends upon the physician's understanding, not depends upon the clinical investigations. It depends upon the person's own educations. So then the clinical care, we have to educate the patient. The patient should realize all response and vibration coherence of within his own systems. Then only our clinical diagnosis can be success. Or that is the message of quantum consciousness training. So coming to the next slide, we can think one another clinical case I like to share. Say a case of backache. Now when we'll ask these questions, collect these questions from the patient, and we can immediately will suggest take a MRI report. So MRI reports are negative. Then you can go for just simple functional treatment, like we can advise some asana and all. If the MRI negative, then we can advise some adjustment in the daily work and all. If that is positive, we can suggest the patient to sit for another 10 minutes. So after sitting for another 10 minutes, if still there is some pain, if no pain, we can go for the first degree treatment. If there is pain, then with asana, we can go to suggest for a nutritional supplement, which is mostly we say just 10 or 6 variety of changes. And in the next grade, sometimes we can, patient may have more degree of pain. So we can suggest the patient to have a cough. And with the cough, if the patient will have more pain, that it could be a retinopathy, which may need some Sodhana Chikisa. We can give Triphala Churna, we can give Gandharva, we can give Vaishvanara, along with the external treatment or the previous asanas that all we continue. So asana, nutrition, some Sodhana and some external treatment. It means we are changing the degree of treatment according to the degree of the complaint of the patient. And further proceedings, if the patient have a pain in long sittings, have a pain aggravations with a cough, have a more stiffness in the thigh muscles too, it means it is suggesting the obturator neuritis, which is again which is expecting a very complicated treatment with asana. It needs a nutrition, it needs a Sodhana Chikisa, and the Chikisa should continue for a long period. Now it depends upon the avastha of the patient. It depends upon the whole education of the patient, that how patient realize all that concept. According to the complaint of the patient, according to the expression of the patient, we can define the stage of the disease, like whether it's amajina, it's a vidagdajina or vistabdajina. If the amajina conditions, with any medicines, according in respect to the disease, we can add something because basic pathology is amajina. If it's a vidagdajina, then we can go for some samana medicine like Urgent. If it is Vistabdhajina, so some Sodhana Chikisa or could be a Rasayan Chikisa like Vasti, etc. we can plan. Now, going to see the pictures of all 30 chapters in Chikisa Sthana, the distribution is something that way. So, beginning chapters are related to the Ama and Kapha Samprapti, or next in between in the Grahani, Pandu, Raktapita, etc. So, those are suggesting the Vidagdhajina of the same dosage, that is Tridosha. So, no any disease is out of Tridosha or not out of one dosage. And towards the end, Vata Vyadhi, Rusnam, etc. are coming as a Vistabdhajina. So, that to be incorporated in the treatment protocols. Now, proceeding to the next concept, has tried to clarify here the quantum concept under the food illusions. So, now we have celebrated the food, the Posona Maha, and here food has measured by calorie value. Now, question is that what is the calorie itself? So, it is just rising 1 degree temperatures in a 1 kg of water. If such things is going on inside our systems, then how we can measure the food and food value to express through the calorie itself? So, food we receive in certain emotions, food processed through the systems, through certain all different atmospheres. The absorption takes place by the cells, sometimes rejection takes place, sometimes the transportation is right and wrong. So, all together reflected the total nutrition. It's not the calorie reflected the nutrition. So, of course, calorie is a way to understand how the foods are responsible for the nutrition, but it is not all to understand the nutritional value. So, it will be a partial or it will be a very fraction understanding of the food, its impact on the nutrition itself. Now, I kept here to justify the calorie value. So, this is the way how we measure the calorie value. Now, I kept two things. That is, one is the brushing. So, it's a sponge. We can see it will keep around to the waters. The sponge will take everything and will stop to that area. But when we will compare with the lighthouse generally work on the principles of reflecting a vertical light onto a horizontal surface. That's why it kept under the completely open space near to the oceans. The horizontal surface is affixed with gentle lenses. So, the lens, the Fresnel lenses, and those lenses reflect the light in the form of light beam. And it is actually how it is written, the Jatragni nourishes the all Dhatwagni. So, the principles of lighthouse is work on that way, and that's why we cannot fix or fractionizing the concept of Agni or fractionizing the food and nutrition in the concept of calorie value cells. So, coming to the next slide, where sometimes the obese patient during menopause. So, the time factor is more important. During the menopausal age, we may give any medicine to reduce the weight, but it is not working. So, all Langana therapy will fail there. But the so-called nutrition therapy, in the sense supplying vitamin D, increasing the estrogen levels, it may help for reducing the weight itself. So, this is because inside the dynamic systems, the cellular collision or the atomic collisions itself helps to normalize the things. As we push the waves or put the clay water under the air, and after certain times it will settle down, and the clearance in the waters you can watch. The same way the body clearance, or we can help the systems to reduce the fat by supplying some things, or by supplying the vitamin D. It's just because all the we know the hormonal genesis is taking place through that way. So coming to the next ones, that sometimes we try through the vyayam or exercise and all. So during that exercise, the myokines itself contract the adipokine. Adipokine itself is a responsible factor for the grade of inflammations. So that exercise actually helps for the mitochondrial biogenesis. So inside the mitochondria, then we speak about the aerobic exercise and anaerobic. So the mitochondria will accelerate for its biogenesis process and enhances the physical movements. And that those all physical movements inside the cellular levels activate the internal agni, and that's why the health definition is justified as a Ushna Sita Sahisnuta. So that is actually helping us to be fit and fine for the health concept. And the same way, if we proceed to the next slide, the try has given that when Langhana has instructed, that times more importance or more watch has given on the water content, and water bond or the H2O bond, it says it's a polar bond. So polar bond is a compact bond. It never reacts to the other things. That's why we can see the idol of Krishna. वो हमेशा ऐसा टेढ़ा होके खड़े होते हैं. कृष्ण कभी सीधा, कृष्ण का मूर्ति कभी सीधा नहीं मिलता है. So that is suggesting the polar bond never react to the other things, and that's why there are no accumulations of water. So we can see that chapter Sutrasthana 7 in the Sutrasthana 8 in the Sotha Adhyaya, where it is tried that Sotha Samprapti itself is the Samprapti which can link to many or all the diseases. The insulin itself helps to sustain the glucose, fat and water all together. It means to say that when 1 gram fat increases inside the body, it able to accumulate 1.07 gram of water. Similarly, in case of 1 gram proteins, it helps for the accumulations of 0.41 gram of waters, and in carbon also again, carbohydrate also, it again helps to accumulate the waters about the 0.55 grams. So it is not always. We should think what is the Utpada Karana and what is the Vyanjaka Karana. If Vyanjaka Karana itself is the water accumulations, then it is necessary to clean it out from the systems of the Sodhana Chikitsa. So in the Sodhana Chikitsa, immediately at the end of the Sodhana day, we can watch in the patient 3 to 4 kg of weight reduces. So that weight reduces is nothing but the reduction of the water content or the fluid contents in the body. So it is not the fluid content. Throughout the Sansadhana Krama, we watch on the patient that how it affects on aerobic bacteria dissolutions. So the aerobic bacteria deposition inside the systems, that diffuses, the E. coli colonizations also breaks, and that's way how the body homeostasis return back. And all the given medicines, they actively work inside the systems and able to accelerate the good absorptions. What is written in our text, Buddhya Visyananam Paka Sutta Mukha Visadanat or Safa Mukha. So that way the dosas accumulated and dosas kicked out from the body. And it is not only through that way, it alters the whole gut microbiota and enhances the bile and the enzyme secretion and all. Most important is that the complex fat or complex fatty acid, the chain break and small or short chain fatty acid starts to form, which is easily transported inside the systems. And that's the way how we can initiate the activity in the internal systems. And here I like to take on another example. I kept one slide also. That is how the phospholipids works. So the antenna, like we can see that when the heavy accumulation of fluid in the systems, the antenna is just immersed inside the fluid itself. So the conscious level decreases. What has written in our classics, Atma and Paramatma. So Atma, the individual consciousness, is unable to link with the super consciousness. That's why a question comes that 9 months के बाद बच्चा का delivery होना जरूरी है क्या? So there are a lot of answers that there is a starting of oxytocin secretions, the uterus itself matures. But among all those answers, we can proceed to the next slide. Among all those answers, So among all those answers, that answer is more suitable, that how our body system responses to the stimuli of the external universe. So it is like the physical body itself is their hardware, and the indriya, mana, atma, those softwares, and those all softwares to be tuned with the galaxy, or the, we can speak at the solar systems. So when it is, as we keep the mobile hotspot, so there should be a hotspot here, or the hotspot connectivity updated, all those software kept inside our systems. So please proceed to the next slide. Accordingly, the quantum consciousness level we can increase. So it is not just trying emotionally to tune with such good emotions. It is also the physical body need to correct, and it is needed to start from the beginning life itself. So our chapter, that is Atulya Gotriya, marriage should be in Atulya Gotra. Why? Because the genetic consciousness, or the consciousness inbuilt in the gene and chromosomes, etc., will be accelerated by the Atulya Gotriya. And it is needed a pre-marriage counselings. And that times, even before the conceptions, the pre-conceptual counselings is needed to see if we are thinking that our globe should be good. Now, why not we are planning to call the good Atma within the womb? So that would be another step. आज नहीं तो कल दुनिया अच्छा हो जाएगा, बट इफ विल ट्राई, हो सकता है कि अच्छा होने का जो टाइम पीरियड और प्रोसेस कैन बी एक्सीलरेटेड by culling, by worshipping all those good atma. So in the Putrashti Yagya, in ancient India, people do the same job. So a project we are running with for this purpose also, that how the good atma, or good conscious levels, good soul, can be called within the womb, and preconceptual counseling can accelerate or can do such good things in the universe. So that is another thing. And since from the birth, each and every children should be educated about who am I. Without understanding the concept of who am I, the whole mathematics of human life will be corrupted. So it is in the mathematics solutions, last answers is correct, then we get the mark. But sometimes it's mistake made in the process, our mark in the mathematics deducted. So it is like so. In the process of our human development, if we will not understand basically who am I, then we always focus to the other things, what is miserable to our life. So we put all of our potentiality to give more force to the miserable regions and making them like a big hill or mountain. Rather, we should focus within us. That laser focus towards the internal consciousness may help to do the whole works of 6 to 8 hours within the 2 hours exercise. So these all first expositions to the universe. The baby when come out, the way through which the conscious levels, it is again before that also as possible. And coming to the next slide, I kept some mathematical calculations about the financial budget coming in our country. All can see the amount of financial budget we use or we face for such variety of diseases. Question may comes, why all these list of diseases are affecting to the globe? Please proceed to the next one. So if at all we are serious to reduce the financial budget, then we have to understand the basic concepts, that the concepts of genetics, the concept of epigenetics. So genetics is fine, that leveraging all these Advaitavada, Advaita concepts from the Samhita towards the so-called scientific understandings, that about the Pinda Brahmanda Nyaya, the mantra chikisa, the sabda, the vibrations, the coherence, the chikisa, how those things maintain the harmony and that is a sustainable it sounds. Can you please mute those two? Hello, Dr. Poonam.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So each system is actually hate to each other. Instead, is all the systems can sit together and can share those ideas in a light positive way, or unfolding such vocal energy, or the what we tell in terms of sabda chikisa, then those vibration can bring a changes into the internal consciousness. And that is nothing just to do in the changes in the physical matters. Sometimes the body kept within the Faraday box, also the energy level can be transmitted to them and the disease can be treated. Now, concern to the disease of Madhumeha, how the quantum consciousness work there, we can analyze the 10 numbers of Madhumeha patient now observes in our OPD and IPD can be classified this way, and how to be treated either without or very less amount of medicines. So there is the next slide. We have given that how different variety of exercise, that say clapping of 400 times or 100 times, locking that way, and activating the peripheral systems, the things will be mobilized. Because referring the Charak Samhita Sutras under 12 chapters, where the concept is kept that Tridosa Propo may takes place. But after time, Dhatu maintains its resiliency, that disease cannot be established. So the moment when Dhatu left its own resiliency, then the dosas, whatever carried throughout the way of Dhatus, there it starts to accumulate. That's the times of dosa dusya samachana. And before that, Prakupita dosa might be, but so Prakupita dosa doesn't mean the person is patient. So before that, all these functional problems starts. So if patient education is there, patient will conscious about the pathological conditions, and he can able to mobilize those dosas. So dosa ko जोर से घुमाने throughout the body, throughout the way, or throughout the systems, then the things will not settle down. And when the things will not settle down, then it will be unable to establish a organic disease. So there is a way how quantum healing works through the fastings or langhana chikisa. That way has given here that if a person will take under 5 days fastings, how it accelerated the hormonal levels, and that way how the auto healing remain active. And coming to the next slide, where a comparative study has given that through the fastings, that how it able to treat the accumulated cholesterols and inhibited the aging process, the fat burning will be, and we can increase the life expectancy. Not only that way, even the mental clarity we can establish within the person's body. And therefore, Swatantrata ka Divas we are celebrating, and in this Swatantrata Divas, we should not forget Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. So it was a statement of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, तुम मुझे खून दो मैं तुम्हें आज़ादी दूंगा. So स्वतंत्रता का ये golden celebrations, I like to share this statement that तुम मुझे भूख दो मैं तुम्हें आरोग्य दूंगा. So it is like if we will conscious about the leptin resistance, then we can conscious about the amount of food, whether it is satisfied the hungry or not. So if it is satisfied the hungry, if it will only that times when leptin is under control, or leptin ghrelin balance, the seesaw is under balance, then that is possible. So we will conscious about what amount of food we should consume. And another point, when the food is completely received by the stomachs pass the sensations to the brain that no more food should be consumed. That require times. So in our Ashtara Vidhi Vishesh, it has told that lamba time tak khana nahi khane. So that you will fail to recognize that how much amount of food one should consume. So that is the quantum consciousness or auto healing way. What even a Nobel award to their scientists, the contemporary the medical scientists. And therefore, the concept of genetics is necessary to understand. So genetics is nothing but it's a partial information to understand the interactions between the molecular components. So when the molecular components are joined together, they add together. It is not just structural size or configuration changes. Sometimes it changes its quality too. So the behaviors too at the subtle levels. So at the subtle levels, how it changes, that is clearly not mentioned under the Padartha Vigyan or Guna Vigyana subjects. So how could be these are explainable without higher level of insight to the Ayurvedic systems? So it needs a higher level of insight to understand the pathology of atomic bombardings or atomic collider reactions within the systems and how one guna converted into another guna. It is not like one person is asking, Doctor, मुझे आज खाने को भूख नहीं है, तो लघु आहार ले लो. Laghu means is it physically light or pharmacologically light? So if physically light, because in our textbook we can see laghu means light. Is it physically light? तो किसी को बोलेंगे कॉटन खा के सो जाओ रात को, चलेगा क्या? नहीं चलेगा, because it is physically light, but pharmacology very heavy to digest. So what right yesterday might wrong today. We may not able to solve the problem of 21st century by taking the solutions protocols of 20th century. So genetics has full point at the end, but we should learn about the epigenetics, which is ever-ending or never endings or ever updating concepts. So the way how we are thinking, the way how we are responding, the way how what we are taking, more than that, how we are eating, and more than that, who is eating us. Those all are the concepts that to understand, to unfold the concept of epigenetics, because each system of medicines is necessary to upgrade it up to that level of consciousness. आज नहीं तो काल फिलोसोफर तो बनना ही है. So वो फिलोसोफर बनने से पहले बचपन से ही वो फिलोसफी क्यों नहीं डाला जाता है, so that we can upgrade or we can enjoy our science and will be helpful to the progressive development of human civilizations. So coming to the next slide, here we can proceed to the next slide. Here we have tried to understand that how different chronic diseases established. So one chronic disease, I took one examples here, that is about the Parkinson disease. So when the new disease entered, we start to understand what is the pathology behind Parkinson's. So we observe that there is a deficiency of dopamine, and dopamine cannot be supplemented. So we search out the levodopa can do that same work of dopamine. So we start to supply the levodopa, and when in the progress of treatments, we are watching that sometimes levodopa hijacked by the other chemicals inside the systems. So we are adding the carbodopa with the levodopa, and then it able to carry through the blood-brain barriers. Now sometimes it also fails to work. Then the new biological systems try to observe that alpha-synucleic acids in the intestines is related to the connectivity to the brains where the dopamine deficiency takes place. So that's the way the around 15 to 20 chemicals every day, new synthesis, new innovation is going. Do I satisfied with all those chemicals? If we will take that way, garlic, we will take one garlic, and that garlic, when we are taking extractions, it is working differently, and it is instructed in our classes, take garlic, chew it. When it will chew, the allicin coming to the close contact of trypsins, then only the allicin, that is the medical contents, and that works. Similarly, you can think about the Manduka Parnyasa, Rosa Prajujya. So it is chemically extracted Manduka Parni is not awaited by the quantum consciousness. It is the Brahmi, the chutney, either or the Swarasa to be taken, by which through the chewing process, it able to proliferate the cell and the memory will increases. So that's the way how all those chemicals work differently. If you think about the opium, so opium have both morphine and codeine, and both the chemicals are antagonistic to each other. So when we'll watch morphine in the when we'll watch the opium in terms of morphine, then we'll do wrong. And similarly, here also a trial has made, a cross-sectional study has made to understand whether the alpha-synuclein through the vagus connectivity have a role on the brains, and that way two group of animal has taken higher. One group the vagus nerve is intact and another group vagus nerve is excited, and we can guess where the vagus nerve is excited, the animals are not affected with the disease, and where the vagus nerve was intact, there are the chances of disease. And the next step of research what the protocol has made, there the stool has collected from the animals, and the supernatant of the stool feed it to the animals, and the disease level going towards exaggerations. It means it is again proving the concepts what we understand. So what should the treatment protocols? The treatment protocols not to search the dopamines within kapi kachu. So the moment when we consider or understood that the dopamine is there in the kapi kachu, phone जाएगा सारे इंडस्ट्री को चलो kapi kachu का खेती बढ़ाओ. So कभी बच्चों का खेती बढ़ाओ, so ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा डोपामाइन दे दो. It means Ayurveda is also an allopath. So it is not like so. Giving a chemicals what is we are claiming to the Ayurveda allopath systems. The same things also going in the Ayurvedic systems. That's why we should unfold the quantum conscious concept. That is how we can approach those patients of Parkinson's since prior to the disease manifestations. So we can ask a questions before 8 to 10 years. Do you have only one time number 2? So the people who have one time number 2 per day, definitely they can have such variety of diseases if they will not exposed to the Rudusodhana, if they will not exposed to the loose motion, etc. Then there is a maximum chances of changes in the gut microbiota, changes in the flora of the intestines, and the alpha-synucleic that can be have a connectivity to the vagus nerve and the establishment of Parkinson-like diseases. It means what's the treatment of what? That is a down-up approach. So down-up approach in the sense what is written in the Chikitsa Sthana Vata Vyadhi Chikitsa. So down-up approach, when Udavarta Chikitsa is there, we should clear the Udavarta first, then slowly, the dosas from the sulfur to be accumulated in the intestines, and that way the evacuation should be. So this is what I like to say. The first lipids, that's the way through which Saka Kostagaman and Kosta Saka Gamanams, and it carries those dosage from one side to another side, and that consciousness of carrying the contents, the system will forget, the system will slow down, and when the Rutusodhana or recurrent cleaning of the systems, then the consciousness remain maintains. Coming to the next slide, a pyramid I have shared here. That pyramid where the first grade is the whole concept of the etc. We should keep focus to the medicines. At the end, where we can say that is like 90%, 10%. So 90% we should approach through this way. The first grade approach, the quantum consciousness, how we can increase the conscious level or quantum conscious level of the peoples, and that is the process through which we can increase. And at the end, if at all we are feeling the necessity of medicine, 10% where we can do either part of personal surgery or either by supplying the medicine itself. So proceeding to the next slide, that how the next slide please, how the contemporary biology can help us or can create problems to the understandings of Ayurveda. Say a patient has come to us having some chronic skin disease, or say even in the Parkinson disease too. So hardly they use any Udvartana Chikitsa. So here I kept one concept that a dry cow dung powder or the Triphala churna or can be a Haridra churna to be used as a Udvartana Chikitsa, which is written as Udvartana Kapaharam Medaharam Kapaharam Medasaha Pravilayanam. So through the Udvartana or in a upward direction, the opposite direction of the hair follicles, if you do that just the mobilization of adipose tissue, it actually aerated the system. So एरेशन itself, मतलब जैसे हमारे घर के सामने किसी को मट्टी नहीं चाहिए, सब फ्लाईओवर डाल के सब चकाचक चाहिए. Have you ever thought the earth may need that aerations, and without which the waste management is failed, because the aeration is not there, the decomposition of waste is not there, so the earth is not receiving the rainwater. That's the very biggest reasons why we are suffering the less of water levels. And there is a project going on in Bangalore city about this variety of treatment, that how we can keep more and more numbers of cow or buffalo and all, and their urine, their cow dungs helps to aerate the earth surface, and the waste management will be enhanced. So the same way the earth waste management can be used in our cleaning of the systems, or that's the longevity hotspot, or we can generate the longevity hotspot by generating this variety of blue zones in the treatment protocols, and accelerating or inheriting the autogenic treatment systems. And coming to some higher level of insight to the concept of quantum consciousness, let's say a person is complaining indigestion or body ache and all. The moment we get all these information,
I request everyone to keep the mics off. I request everyone to please keep the mics off.
So the moment when we get the complaint from the patient about the lethargy, body ache or indigestion and all, we start to think he may be a patient of joy. Now, if Santapa is not there, what the next step? If Santapa is there, so if Santapa is there, then we can think about the treatment protocol of joy. If there is no Santapa, we can think the prevention stage is there. So now the step of prevention, it means it is whole depends upon the patient own educations about the disease, about the patient own body conditions. So that way we can encourage the concept of preventions, we can encourage the line of treatment, we can encourage the line of rasayana, even the prognosis too. So Nidana here in Ayurveda includes all those concepts of prevention, treatment, or the fixation of therapy, therapeutical procedures, even the prognosis itself. So here is the laboratory, is not the laboratory of investigations. Here the laboratory is the human system itself. And that we do the mistake always. So we should not forget that whole Ayurveda science is depends upon that laboratory, that is the human live laboratory, the live body itself. It means without educating the peoples, we cannot pass whole message of health to the society, or we may be useless to the society. Just big degree we may have, but we may helpless. So same way, when the patient is complaining about, say, there is some pitta complaints. So that pitta complaints, we need a samana chikitsa. Then we can go for either, sometimes either guruji or some pitta samaka chikitsa, either bhuning and all. If we are expecting the things should be clean out from the body, then there is a sodhana pitta. So sodhana of the pitta, we can go for Katupi steps. Of course, I hope this slide everybody will enjoy. So what this slide like to share here. So once these questions has asked to Swami Vivekananda, by this lady, do you marry me? And with these questions, he was very cool. He don't just showing his any excitations. Then he asked the questions, why you like? Now, I like to get a son like you. And what is the need of the marriage? Then this lady get more excited. It's okay, good, fine. So if it is without marriage, then it's more fine. And again, there is no such facial expressions from Swami Vivekananda. And she anxiously asked, why there is no such excitement from you? So he said that without marriage, I could be your son, you will get that son. It says. So she is Sister Nivedita, who served or devoted her whole life for the service of mankind and Swami Vivekananda too. Now why I am speaking this story? Because if investigations will care the clinical practice, then definitely we are either under-treating or over-treating or mistreating the patient. I am not there against the investigation reports. But depending upon the whole treatment on the investigation report, definitely our directions will be wrong. So future new medicines is the meta medicines, and meta means physics, and that physics is the Padartha Vijnana. So the Padartha Vijnana of Ayurveda is whole idea to help the all these concepts to be unfolded. What our body intelligence speak, that to be understood only by encouraging the quantum consciousness. So the science leveraging into the systems in terms of scientific model. Sometimes we teach what is science? Now creating scientific model. So creating scientific model in a linear mathematics or Euclidean mathematics may be useless to our systems. Why? Because Euclidean mathematics or the linear mathematics is depends upon the triangle, circle, or square, etc. What is taught to us in the 12th math subject. Any system, any organs inside our body is on linear mathematics? No. So linear mathematics is fit into the non-linear structures of human body, unable to answer in many such clinical cases. And that's the marriage in between Swami Vivekananda and Bhagini, or the Sister Nivedita. So that's a like a marriage. Any times the divorce can be. Therefore, we should not put our systems. So one example I kept here. We can see that's a paddy field. यहाँ पानी चलता है और पानी कहीं रुकता है, मट्टी आ गया, कुछ कचरा आ गया. Water have its own force and put its own lines flow away. Why we fail those common sense? When a patient of coronary block is coming to the doctor, that times why we are declaring the patient your rejection fraction is 25%, your rejection fraction is 90%. Any times the person should go under surgery. Why? If it is here in the natures, do the collateral circulations, even the coronary circulations can have a collateral circulation. In fact, the coronary circulations receive the blood during diastolic. यही मन में क्वेश्चन आता है, अगर सनस्क्रीन लगा लेने से स्किन प्रोटेक्ट हो जाता था, और देन व्हाई नॉट? सारे जो गाय कुत्ता रास्ते में घूमते हैं उनका कलर चेंजेस क्यों नहीं होता है? हैव यू एवर थॉट कि सनलाइट लगने से कैंसर हो जाएगा, स्किन कैंसर हो जाएगा? तो उनको भी तो हो सकता था. सो वी लेफ्ट आवर कॉमन सेंस जस्ट बिकॉज ऑफ सच ऑल unscientific science has put an umbrella on our head. We hardly understood those things. If anybody is interested, they can design some project, take a dead body of 104, 105 age में जो dead body मरा है, take the TS of the heart, and we can check that more numbers of coronary circulation or block in the coronary circulations directly proportional to the long life. So those all things are still awaited in the Ayurveda educational systems and even in the contemporary medical systems. So proceeding to the next slide, I kept here about the whole concepts of Rakta Dhatu, that how Rakta Dhatu is much important, being a carrier of all dosage, and these all diseases are interlinked to each other. Coming to the next slide, discussing just next, proceed to the next slide, discussing about how the internal collisions helps to manifest one samprapti linked with many symptoms or many diseases. And the next slide, here it has tried to explain that some chemicals we think say yasya desasya jo jantu tajjam tad aushadanitam. We are staying in Goa. Coconut oil is richly available here. So the chemical content, that is sodium malonylic acid, that is available in breast milk, also in the coconut oil, also in the immunoglobulins. It means why it has told why the coconuts are more available in Goa. Instead, why we should leave the coconut oil and will attract it to the media and consumes all those sapola and all, और क्यों हमको पतला होना है और डांस करना है हवा में? Have you ever thought? So these all concepts are coming and suppressing those variety of quantum concepts from our understandings. So very next, please proceed to the next slide, Dr. Poonam. And therefore, more and more numbers, of ladies should be encouraged for giving or providing breast milks. And for my own information, there is no end times that 6 महीना तक, 1 बरस तक, उसके बाद बंद कर देना चाहिए breast milks. So it is no higher such reference I yet get. But if I just leave these questions, if it will be available. So it is as many years the mother can provide the breast milk to the child, it will be more blessings to his or her next life. And one, for examples I kept here, that is when we learn about the Mahakasaya group, that whether all 10 drugs will be mixed together, or each drug there has written for certain regions, or we can make some different permutation and combination. So it is easily expressible through the slides. Anybody can just go through decoding the concepts written here. And very next ones, that through what are the other way we can increase the quantum consciousness levels, that is by the auto healing process. So we should cook our food through a aerobic process. It was in our traditions and cultures. That is, mati se aaya hai aur mati mein jayenge. So today I proudly speak that Jagannath Temple, Puri Dham, they are still cooking process is going on this earthen pot. And all these Patra Sanskara definitely helps through many way for maintaining our quantum consciousness levels. Yeah, of course, dance is a very biggest way through which we can maintain or we can increase the quantum consciousness level That is one example I like to give. When a baby is moving towards the pelvic, so during when head effacement is necessary. Many times doctors speak the head has not head effacement is not proper, so the lady should go under cesarean delivery. Now that times, while we are planning the music therapy, keeping actively the music therapy towards the lower pelvic regions, the baby can turn to listen that music, and indicated cesarean delivery can be rejected and a normal delivery can be induced. So those all things are still awaited in the Ayurvedic education systems or in our traditional cultures to make our traditional knowledge from the science of fraud to the global hotspot or the global spotlight for the traditional knowledge. Similarly, here the Konarka temple, which is meant for Surya Chikitsa, or obligations towards the sun and its contributions. So the sunlight exposition itself. So when we'll expose to the sunlight or we look into the sun, the pineal gland itself activated, and which gland is actually meant for the all orchestra of hormones inside the human systems. So we should not forget those concepts. And proceeding to the next ones, in Odisha, in West Bengal, even in Kerala, this snake cultivations goes on. It is not for the Agada Tantra, how we teach from the Kalpastana. It is by giving or collecting the snake venom for the treatment purpose or for to any supplementations to the chemicals or to the the deficiency inside our systems. Similarly, here we can see the Sabda Chikitsa itself chanting the mantra or chanting the different vibration of the words can treat many diseases. And next proceeding, that is each the quantum consciousness need a physical medicines. So some examples I have given in the few some slides. We can see here that there is the electromagnetic. So just today I was discussing that in the whole globe, how much energy is measurable? Maximum 5% energy. Because if I ask these questions, what is science? Science is explained in terms of measurement. Means when you are listening to me, you are thinking some things. Your thinking is immeasurables. So because it is not able to measure under certain unit and parameters, so your thinking is unscientific. Your love, your gratitude, your affections, your contributions, all are unscientific through so-called interpretation of science. So what the science behind to these all concepts? Therefore, another meaning is that, so science, if a measurement, we cannot measure more than the 5% energy available in the earth. Maximum we can measure the gravitational energy, maximum we can energy the electromagnetic energy, except few amount of energy or few maximum 5 to 10% of energy we can measure. What about the rest amount of energy? So how those energy can be useful for health and disease? So you can see here earlier जो space में जाते थे, the people, the scientists who go to the space after returning, they just paralyzed, go into the hospitals. Now they are jackets as designed, and those who observe those all electromagnetic force coming from the sun, and they become fit and fine. So those all electromagnetic waves now we can use in the medicines in case of bone healings, in case of facial paralysis. Those facial paralysis can be treated within 2 hours just by applying the electromagnetic energy. So see, here is a silver glass. So keep water inside the silver glass, generate 8 to 10 volt of electricity, put the injury site within that 10 volt of electricity, discharge within that water, the healing process will faster. So no medication is there. So non-physical medicines can help to heal the disease. And further proceeding to the diabetes treatments, if a patient from Kerala side will suffer diabetes, we say stop rice, start to take wheat or the chapati. A person from Punjab suffer diabetes, stop rice, start to take chapati. Is the diabetes in the chapati and rice? So instead, why not we are thinking or putting that same concept of yesterday, all the millets are used to cultivated in our land of India. With a very less amount of water, it can be cultivated. So all those good preparations can be there from the millets or rich of vitamin B7s. So I am not separating the chemicals from the millets and bajra, jowari, ragi, etc. But those should be a good choice instead of wheat gluten present in the gemu or chapati that made to make the diabetic patient permanently diabetic. And why I am speaking like so? Because I not have seen any diabetic patient after taking metformin tablet has permanently treated from the diabetes itself. Similarly, hypertensive patient has taken antihypertensive medicines and get free from the hypertension. So the dignity of death has reduces. हम जिंदगी भर कमाते हैं और before the death, the pre-murmurings, that is the ICU, okay, where we drain all those amount of money. So the quantum consciousness is to encourage those things that the local globalizations. So वो लुंगी dance होने दो, but it is our local, but it is more encouraging. So coming to the last part of my discussion today, that how those quantum consciousness concept is applicable to the parapsychological understandings. So parapsychology in the sense, the psychology or the understandings of emotions and all beyond to our psychological understandings. So here I suggest that every institutions or every organizations should have a demo of the death at least once in a month. So this is the Swargadar Puri or the Manikarnika Ghat in Banaras, where the dead body continuously burned together. So जिंदगी का सारे मोहों को तोड़ना है और you like to work out of all the attachment and all, money, power and chair, then definitely we should do a NABH accreditation training style of death itself. Why? Because the self-awareness to increase, because the quantum consciousness is needed to increase. Rather, how long our society will take to pay the attentions that subatomic nutritions of the matters to the mental health, reflected through the physical health, reflected through the disease and death itself, without which people easily never understand. So just start to say a song of no option. So there is no option without which we can be treated by the quantum consciousness. Let us start to speak that Western concepts of showing advancement, showing modernizations cannot give a satisfaction to our treatment protocols. So proceeding to the next slide, where it is try to explore that what should be our own desires. So desire one can fix according to his own or his or her own capacity. So understanding own capacity is also a quantum consciousness. Because feeling and actions both should not have any gap. Many times we feel to do some things, and that can have a differentiation on the action side. So no matter who is listening to you or not, just go on focusing on your works. That may help to unfold the conscious levels hidden within us, and we can create the highest versions of ourselves. And that's the biggest awakenings or biggest satisfactions. Because go on observing the environment, focus on your own works, enjoy your own works. That's the only one path. There is no choice of any other path. Therefore, in the very next slide, please proceed to the next slide. That strongly stand what has understood within, and they will come. The people around to you will understand that that's the only one way, only one choice. Because we always think we are the human being. We are trying for a spiritual understanding. No, we are the spiritual content and kept within the human structures. We should not forget those. And therefore, sometimes people not think that way. What will be the wrong? Will psychologically dwarf. So when a person forget his own identity, he will lose his whole powers and stop to grow, stop to think, stop to unfold his own all capability. And the moment when we stop our thinking process, please go to the next slide. When we stop to think ourselves, then nobody can help us or will not receive the disease cannot enter within. Therefore, two patients have the same problems, but the treatment response differ from one to another. So in the next slide, I try to kept a concept that this is a psychological dwarfism what I used to speak. So the process through which we receive the quantum consciousness through all that low and high vibrations, and we start to react and show that feedback. Those feedbacks is expressed through our behaviors, and therefore we just kept open to unfold or to receive those all vibrations, those all collisions thrown from the external universe, the universe to where we are. So one example I will take. Dr. Punam, you can proceed to the next slide. So the Buddha Gata Bata. So the moment when we case this word Buddha Gata Bata, so Bata Gatatva in the Buddha Gata. So that way we start to interpret. No, it is not like so. It is the Buddha Gata symbolically speaking the area. So on that area, if the Bata dosa will be aggravated, the Udavata situations can lead to Asmari, can be a Tunni, Pratitwani, a those Udavata, that is like Urdhamulam Adha Sakha. It means treatment to the Adha Pradesa, Buddha Pradesa, can control the whole Bata dosa. That's the way the feedback and reactions continue inside the physical system. So very next slide, please. So when I able to control all those energies, all those vibrations, and that is the last step that yes, I succeed in my quantum consciousness encouragement. So that's the starting point how we can work in a right directions. So coming to the next slide, where it is tried to get that it is not by the birth. By the what we fix ourselves that I am like so, it is not like so. Many it is written in our classics कि आयुर्वेद पढ़ाई जब फिनिश हो जाता है वैद्य का जन्म होता है. It means within one janma there is several times of janma and mrityu. That is Khanamangurabada. So all this Darsana Shastra has to be understood in different level of human life. That is when there is mrityu, where is my childhood? That is mrityu takes place. Then janma of the next age of the life. So this is the consequently those all process goes on. That's why observations of quantum consciousness is still essentials. So it is not a fixed quantum consciousness. Today quantum consciousness levels might differ from the next day. So this is the whole process goes on. So in the very next slide, I took a concept that is how the changes takes place to Dasyaratnakara to Valmiki, or we know that Vidura, he was a very lower caste, but he became he maintained his precious life throughout his whole lifespans. So it is the process through which we perceive, then we become a perceiver. So it is not by the janma itself, it is not by the physical birth itself. So many times the janma takes place throughout one life, and that is a changes in our social custom too. So we can work taking this quantum consciousness concept in social reformings, and all those wrong things of isolating chemicals, upgrading the science means measurement and measuring all those things, measuring immeasurable things, applying the 20th century protocols in the 21st century should be cleaned out as we design the Namami Gange project. So healing systems of one earth, one health nations, when the entry of 5th industrial revolution is going on, that we should realize that our spiritual being, we all are the spiritual beings, and we have just emerged within these physical structures. And only one such understanding can take our nations very free. So स्वतंत्रता का जीत होना जरूरी है. Of course, nobody will ready to give his daughters to a thelawala, but thelawala is स्वतंत्र, free, very free. So 25 दिन काम पे जाएगा, 5 दिन नहीं जाएगा तो भी कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं. 5 दिन बीवी को लेके घुमाने के लिए लेके जा सकता है. But what is the educational system today? 10 लाख 15 लाख दे दो, एक डिग्री कर लो, बाद में MBA करो, बाद में और MD करो, बाद में PhD करो, और बाद में किसी के अंडर काम करो, और 4 दिन शादी के लिए छुट्टी भी नहीं मिलता है. So is it स्वतंत्र? So did the technology teaches us for that variety of upgradation in the education, and again very precise to the medical education systems. So many fraud are there. So we should think very independently whether we are really celebrating the Swatantra Divasa, or that is the we are free to think our own systems of medicines should work differently or should present differently. So before the flight to take off in the airport, we may see the big buildings are there, and we fear about the size. So we fear about the science, what is demanded from the globe about Ayurveda, that Ayurveda is unscientific, or make Ayurveda to a science-based, trusted medical systems. But the moment you will take your flight up, slowly हम उस बिल्डिंग के साथ तो कुछ भी नहीं करने वाले हैं, लेकिन जब हमारा फ्लाइट ऊपर जाएगा धीरे धीरे वो सारे बिल्डिंग इनसिग्निफिकेंट हो जाएगा. So the moment we will take our flight with our own protocol, our own practice, our own procedures, then those all buildings insignificant in their own size. अगर आरबीसी देखना है तो माइक्रोस्कोप चाहिए, खाली आंख से नहीं देख सकते. अगर आयुर्वेद के ऊपर काम करना है तो रेस्पेक्ट टू द फिलोसफी, रेस्पेक्ट टू सच वैरायटी ऑफ साइंस. When we rose the standards by experience, by the quantum consciousness concept, then correct the correct applications of Ayurveda will be, and we can realize the system of Ayurveda is very high to all those concept of science available around to us, and the genuine theory of biology can be unfolded, and we can see the real Vishwarup darshan of Ayurveda.